Adrian N. Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a regular session of the City Council to be held on Monday, October 17th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting such business that may properly come before the City Council.
Thank you. Good evening, and welcome to a regular session of the Dubuque City Council for October 17th, 2022. As a reminder to our participants, you can provide in-person input or virtual audio and written input during the sections of the agenda where public input is accepted. Input options during the live meeting include: in-person attendees may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any public input on the item they would like to speak to. Remote attendees can log into GoToMeeting using the login links, phone numbers, and access code that appear on the broadcast and live stream and posted on the front page of the meeting agenda. This option includes audio input and written chat input. If you are participating via computer, indicate which item you would like to speak to in the chat function, or note that you would like to speak during the appropriate section. If you are participating via phone, indicate which item you would like to speak to when phone lines are unmuted. All phone lines will be unmuted during the consent agenda, public hearings, and public input periods, and city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. All comments, whether in person or virtual, must be accompanied by a name and address. Additionally, written public input is accepted by contacting the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/councilcontacts and through the City Clerk's office email at ctyclerk@cityofdubuque.org. This information will be reiterated during the meeting. Attendance for the session is as follows: Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Farber.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Roussel.
Here.
Sprank. Wethel. Here. City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
And City Attorney Brumwell.
Here.
Thank you. We do have a few changes on tonight's agenda. Some items are being pulled. Items set for public hearing number 3 and items set for public hearing number 4, as well as action item number 5, are all removed from the agenda.
And on action item number 5, Adrian, I'll point out, so this is you'll notice it's the request to reschedule the Five Flags Civic Center work session, which was scheduled for October 24th originally. We do need to change that date. It's going to need to be at a later time. We were going to try to reschedule it to a date in January, but unfortunately discovered that doesn't work right off the bat here, so we're just going to pull it from the agenda and find another date. Just wanted to let everybody know publicly, because since Five Flags is an issue we've been talking about frequently, we are not going to have that work session on October 24th, but it is coming, and we're looking for a date. Thank you, Adrian.
And I will turn it over to you, Mayor Kavanaugh, for the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, thank you. I invite all who are able to please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our presentation tonight is America in Bloom Awards presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marie Ware, and I'm the Leisure Services Manager for the City of Dubuque. And I'm really excited to be able to present and to share information about the America in Bloom Symposium and the awards celebration that happened just several weeks ago. A little bit of background about how we got to the awards program. So it's a national grant and awards program, the America in Bloom, that's AIB. We applied for and received a $25,000 grant from the CN Railroad and America in Bloom. And one of the things you had to do was to do this one little checkbox that said, you'll apply for an award. I'm like, piece of cake, we do it all the time as the City of Dubuque, right? So I checked the box and moved on. Well, then we received the award, which meant, check, we have to apply for this award. Well, come to find out, you needed to create a 25-page community profile that represents Dubuque as a part of the award nomination. And you needed to be able to have advisors come and visit our community. So it turned out to be a little more than what we expected, but I think what you'll find out is that in the end it was well worth it. If people want to see the profile, it is attached to the council agenda item, or if you go to our website at cityofdubuque.org/parks and scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, you'll be able to see it. So in July, on July 18th and 19th, we hosted the two advisors, Galen Gates, who is from the Chicagoland area, and Sheridan Haddon, who is from United Kingdom, but also had been living in Dubai just before she came to us. And so worldwide travelers, basically. We toured with them 22 different locations in those 2 days between 8 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They met with Mayor Brad Kavanaugh and the council persons of Susan Farber, Laura Rousseau, Katie Wethel, and Danny Sprank. They also met with, throughout the time, 24 other volunteers, community partners, and city staff. And this is not an entire list, but it gives you the depth and breadth of, in that very short amount of time, how many different people and how many different places we went to see within our community. So it was a highly orchestrated event. And in that time, we were to share, there were 7 categories we needed to share all of what we do in those areas, in addition to that community profile that we did. We also had the opportunity to be able to apply or to nominate a person for our community champion. And they called it the 2022 Dwight Lund Community Champion Award. And so our nomination was for Councilperson Susan Farber. And she was honored, and I have a plaque here to present here today. And it says, Dubuque, Iowa, Susan advocates tirelessly for members of the community to help Dubuque become a sustainable, resilient city that is inclusive and equitable for all people. Susan's passion is on full display, and she is making a positive difference by bringing fresh ideas to our community. She is a champion for Dubuque. So, Mayor, I'll let you present this to her.
Let's go ahead and give Susan a round of applause while she makes her way up.
Thank you, Susan. Additionally, the judges had the opportunity, or advisors they call them, I called them judges, but our advisors had an opportunity to be able to nominate our community for anything that they felt that we needed special recognition for. So for the items that we do very, very well within our community. And then it goes up against the other communities that are a part of the America in Bloom competition. And so we were recognized for our environmental efforts. Now, this is called America in Bloom, and so it makes you think of just flowers and landscaping. But actually, the environmental category is about all kinds of things. So it's anywhere from our, we talked about our carbon reduction strategy. We talked about our sustainability efforts. We talked about our resiliency commission. We talked about all the different things that we do that are part of our environmental efforts that cross across all kinds of different departments within our city. And so this recognition of environmental efforts really is truly a city recognition and a recognition of all the work of not just all of us, but all of our other efforts, anything from our volunteer groups to our commissions, to our city, to our departments, everyone as a whole, and the environmental efforts and the push that we have. So with that, we'll present the environmental recognition of our community's efforts.
This is for, well, thank you very much. Yes.
And we're not done. Next up, one of the things that we had the opportunity to be able to be a part of was they said, would you like to be a part of the All-America Selection Garden Showcase? Which means that they send you this box of seeds about this big, and they say you have to grow the seeds, you have to plan your beds, and be able to showcase those in locations that people would see them. And so our horticulturalist, Kelly Gozen, she took those seeds, grew them in the greenhouse, designed 2 different beds. One of them you'll see in the picture was outside of the City Hall Annex, and the other one was at Bunker Hill Golf Course. And within those beds, then the All-America selection, and if you're a gardener, you know that those are ones that have been proven to grow well in many different places, not hard to grow. And what you'll see in those pictures is that showcase. So her efforts won the top prize, basically. It was the All-America Selection Showcase Garden Award. So I'm going to bring the award to you, Mayor, so you can present it to Kelly, our horticulturist, who is here with us this evening.
Nice going.
Okay, and then next up, we'll have a message from one of our judges, and so they're going to play that. So because they're the ones in their words that'll tell you what they experienced when they were here with us.
Hi, I'm Sharon Haddon, and I'm one of the 2 advisors, along with Galen Gates, who was lucky enough to be hosted by you, Dubuque, for your inaugural entrance into America in Bloom. Neither of us had ever visited Dubuque, and we were just blown away by what you had to show us. You opened our eyes to this amazing place. It's an exceptional city, as you know, and we commended you for the way in which you hosted us and made our visit so fantastic and so easy for us to represent you to America in Bloom. It was just wonderful on our first day when we were met by Mayor Brad Kavanagh at our first stop at the Five Flags Theatre, and what an amazing beginning to that to our visit that was. I can't name you all. You were all so fantastic. Everybody we met was so welcoming. And you talk about your secret sauce, what makes it work. And it was so apparent that it's how you all work together civically, with business, and also with all your residents. And all of you together just create that magnificent secret sauce that makes Dubuque such an amazing place. We saw so many things, and I think we took away so many memories of what you do and what you had on offer. For me, it was just at Eagle Point where I looked down and saw the mighty Mississippi for the first time, and I'd never seen that in its magnificence. And so thank you for showing me that, and that's something that I take back to the UK and talk about very, very regularly. Goodness, congratulations, because really you did so well as your first year entering into America in Bloom that you won. You won your category, and you fully deserved it. Everything you do already is so good for what we look for in America in Bloom, and you were able to show us that. Marie and Kristen, you hosted us so beautifully and took us around and gave us everything we needed and showed us everything. We met so many other people, of course, and too many to shout out, but goodness, thank you everybody we met. It was just superb. You deserve winning, and we were really proud that we were able to represent you to America in Bloom, and that you came away with that award. That's fantastic. Now what we want to see is you coming back strong next year and looking at some of our recommendations that we made, and you know the things that you were kind of missing out on. So just some of those recommendations, just putting them into place. Come back next year so we can come back and we can have a look and see what you can do. I think one of the main things that we looked at that we thought you could really work on would be the lower part of Main Street, and we had so many talks about that, but there's just so much you could do to that would just make that area really shine. Thank you for hosting us. Thank you for entering America in Bloom. Congratulations. for us, really proud that we were able to see you win, and also to see Susan Farber win as well. That was tremendous. Well done, Susan. You fully deserved that. And hopefully we'll be able to come back and visit and get some more of your secret sauce and see more of what you've got to show us. Thank you again, Dubuque, from both myself, Sharon Haddon, and from Galen Gates for being the most amazing city, and well done again.
For the last award, the judges told us what they do is that they go and they take all of the information that they gain from us, and they go back with recommendations of the communities that they're at that they feel are very worthy of winning, any of the awards, and particularly the top awards. And so when we were going around, they give us, no idea, but, the indication was we did okay, and we've never done it before. So we had no idea. At the symposium, which was a couple weeks ago, I was on vacation, and a big shout out to Kristen Dietz, our lead administrative assistant, and Jennifer Tigas, who's on our Park and Rec Commission, and Susan Farber, who is our city council person, went down to the symposium, and they received our honor, our top honor, which I'm told that communities will participate typically 10 years before they receive this top award. And so it is a distinct honor that we won for population 35,000 and over, which over is anything, 35,000 and anything. So that's a high honor for the city of Dubuque and for our community, because just like the others, that is something special. So with that, if you don't mind, I'll have all of them come up too when I present this. So.
Thank you so much for coming. You want any pictures or anything? Are we good? Yeah? Here we go. All right. Yeah, that's right. All right. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, so with that, just very quickly, thank you very much for your support of all the things that are a part of this criteria. So we were judged on community vitality, flowers, landscape areas, urban forestry, environmental efforts, celebrating heritage, and overall impressions. As Sharon said in the video, we received a 41-page evaluation, so it says the things we did really great on. And then one of the things we did is we said, here's where we think we're not doing so hot at, and that's what she was saying. And so we'll be looking at those. They gave us some things to consider, some opportunities and possibilities of being able to do. But within there, there's so many great comments, there's so many amazing compliments to our community, and I included that evaluation in the council's packet so that if you would like to, you can sure review that, and we'll be having others that will also be a part of it. So congratulations to Dubuque, and congratulations to all that made this possible, because it really is a community award.
Well, you said it so well, Marie. I don't have a lot to add, but I'll just say thank you very much for all your work on this and for everyone who was able to be a part of the process, especially. But it really is an award for the entire community. So thank you to everyone for doing all that you do for the city of Dubuque. Thank you. All right, Adrienne.
We will move on to proclamations. Our first proclamation is Brain Health Awareness Month.
Okay. So I know we have Debbie Butler here, and I also see Clara Sieverding Capron and Mary Rose Corrigan. Are they with you? Or no, it's just you. All right, come on up. Yeah. Yeah, we'd love to hear about the proclamation if you have anything to say before we read it tonight.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to say good evening, City Mayor, City Council, and City Manager. Thank you again for your support with the proclamation for Brain Health Now. And Brain Health Now, just to kind of give you a little background for those of you who don't know what it is, we are a grassroots organization here to help end stigma surrounding mental illness by changing the way we talk about it to brain health. And because of your support, Dubuque has been an amazing, amazing model for the rest of the community in the state of Iowa. And so we are doing great things in the state of Iowa. We're working on passing a bill at the state level. So we've got the bill written, and Dubuque has a big presence with all the state legislations, the governor. So we're very proud of that. And we've just recently put in brain health retreat rooms in all the high schools, which are very well attended by the high school students. We have 65 children going in a day to these rooms, and it's helping them to regulate emotions and de-escalate as they need to throughout the day. And so I just want to thank you so much for all your support. And we've been in many publications throughout the state of Iowa. As you know, and the Telegraph Herald has been very good to us as well. So I have a copy of a nice article, and this is in the Iowa County Magazine, which is statewide, and I want to give one to all of you. So,
Yeah, thank you very much. If you want to hand it to Mike there, and then he can kind of pass around, that'd be perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much, Debbie, for being here to accept this proclamation, and obviously for all your work on this. City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas brain health is critical to everyone's well-being, and whereas the brain is an organ susceptible to diseases and disorders that have a biological and neurological basis, and often can be successfully treated, and whereas awareness and education are pivotal to end the stigma around mental illness, and whereas the Dubuque County Community Health Needs Assessment calls for mental health services that are accessible, creative, and evaluated, and whereas, with effective education, coordinated services, and access to care and treatment, those individuals with brain health issues and those that provide services to those individuals can work together for recovery in a stigma-free environment. And whereas the local Brain Health Task Force and Dubuque County Stakeholders Group consist of local service providers, public health, treatment facilities, policymakers, nonprofit members, advocacy groups, and those directly impacted by brain health disorders, all of whom are working to address the community needs and provide education and advocacy. Now, therefore, I, Brad M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the City of Dubuque, on behalf of the City Council, staff, and residents of Dubuque, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2022 as Brain Health Awareness Month in the City of Dubuque, Iowa, and urge Dubuque residents to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of brain health and the need for understanding, acceptance, and awareness of all people with brain health issues. Come on up. Okay,
Our second proclamation is Gentleman Day.
all right, and I see Bobby Sue Lopez and Angela I hope it's Heister? Heister, thank you very much for correcting me. Come on up.
We would like to thank the City of Dubuque for supporting Waypoint's mission in supporting survivors of domestic violence. We couldn't do this important work without you, and we just wanted to thank you all very much for supporting us.
Well, thank you for being here to accept this proclamation and for all the work that you're doing in the community. The City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas 1 in 3 women will experience domestic violence during her lifetime, and whereas intimate partner violence impacts victims, children, family, friends, and the community at large. And whereas domestic violence is not confined to any group or groups of people, but is experienced in all economic, racial, ethnic, educational, societal, and religious groups, and is sustained by societal indifference. And whereas perpetrators of domestic violence should be held accountable for their actions, and victims should have access to support and services to help them overcome their experience. And whereas it is important to recognize the compassion and dedication of the individuals who provide support to victims of intimate partner violence and work to increase public understanding of this significant problem. And whereas only a coordinated effort from all community members will put a stop to this heinous crime. Now, therefore, I, Brad M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council, staff, and residents of Dubuque, do hereby proclaim the 19th of October, 2022 as Gentleman Day in the City of Dubuque, Iowa, and encourage everyone to work together to eliminate domestic violence from our community.
Our third proclamation is Lights On After School Day.
All right. Our friend Beth McGorry is here to accept this proclamation.
Good evening, friends. My name is Beth McGorry, and I'm the Director of Donor Relations at St. Mark Youth Enrichment. Thank you again for celebrating our Lights On After School. I wish I could come with cheerful stories today. It's the hardest year I've ever had at St. Mark, 9 years in. Our kiddos, when talking about brain health, our kiddos are struggling more than I've ever seen them. And this celebration is making sure that our kids are safe and loved and filled with compassion every day. Like I said, it's been the hardest one. I've been yelled at and told I love you in 3 seconds, and they're not my kids. So I expect the mom to hear that, right? And I expect a dad. But we've got little kiddos who need us and need us really hard. Our staffing is tight, as everyone's staffing is tight. So celebrating with loving and caring, compassionate adults like yourself are so needed to celebrate and to keep all of our after-school programs going in our community. There are many of us doing hard work every day, and we are so thankful for the support you guys always give. One of my little buddies, DJ, he's cute. Okay, he's great. He's pretty awesome. He's switched schools twice in 3 years, and he's always been in our program. He's been in our summer program, and he came up to me on Thursday last week. He's like, Miss Beth, why do you keep following me? Why do you keep following me from school to school to school? You're always there. Yep, buddy, we're always here, and we always want to be here. So that's why we'd like to keep our lights on every day after school.
Thank you, Beth. It's good for us to hear the challenges as well as the successes, so thank you very much for sharing it with us and obviously for being here to accept this tonight. The City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas during the COVID-19 pandemic, after-school programs have risen to the moment to support youth and are critical supports to help youth recover from this challenging time and address their academic, social, and emotional needs. During the pandemic, programs innovated to provide remote learning support, virtual programming, care for children of essential workers, meal support, wellness check-ins, and more. And whereas St. Mark Youth Enrichment has provided significant leadership in the area of community involvement in the education and well-being of our youth, grounded in the principle that quality after-school programs are key to children becoming successful adults. And whereas Lights On After School, the national celebration of after-school programs held this year on October 20th, promotes the importance of quality after-school programs in the lives of children, families, and communities. And whereas more than 28 million children in the U.S. have parents who work outside the home, and 15.1 million children have no place to go after school. And whereas many after-school programs across the country are facing funding shortfalls so severe that they are being forced to close their doors and turn off their lights. And whereas the City of Dubuque is committed to investing in the health and safety of all young people by providing expanded learning opportunities that will help close the achievement gap and prepare young people to compete in the global economy. Now, therefore, I, Brad M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council staff and residents of Dubuque, do hereby proclaim the 20th of October, 2022, as Lights On After School Day in the City of Dubuque, Iowa, and hereby enthusiastically endorse Lights On After School and commit our community to engage in innovative after-school programs and activities that ensure the lights stay on and the doors stay open for all children after school.
Our fourth proclamation is Extra Mile Day.
Okay, Heather Satterley is here for this one. Hello, Heather.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Thanks for having me here. I was thinking about Extra Mile Day, and I usually try to maybe share a little story about somebody, in our world who's gone an extra mile. But in fact, I have about 367 people who have went the extra mile. I will not name each of them individually, but I do want to highlight a recent event that just happened on October 7th. University of Dubuque held their first annual Spartans Make a Difference Day, and they had 364 volunteers. which is pretty incredible. And so I'd like to not only recognize those volunteers of their students and community members and alumni and staff and faculty and even kids in their daycare program, but to also acknowledge the work of Ellen Carr and Carissa Brown at University of Dubuque and our own Sarah Berna of the City of Dubuque. And I would like to ask anyone who feels like going the extra mile in a year that it's pretty hard to find the effort to do that, that they can find an opportunity to go the extra mile at volunteerdbq.com.
Thank you so much, Heather. Thanks for sharing that story and also for the information that to help people get involved. So thanks for being here. City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas Dubuque, Iowa is a community which acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when its individual residents collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas Dubuque, Iowa is a community which encourages its residents to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas Dubuque, Iowa is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas Dubuque, Iowa acknowledges the mission of Extra Mile America to create 550 Extra Mile cities in America and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2022. Now therefore, I, Brad M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council staff and residents of Dubuque, do hereby proclaim the 1st of November 2022 as Extra Mile Day in the City of Dubuque, Iowa, and urge each individual in the community to take time on this day to not only go the extra mile in his or her own life, but to also acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make their organizations, families, community, country, or world a better place. All right, Adrian.
We will move on to consent items. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the consent items, please approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Please state the item you would like removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and consideration, and consent items can be found on pages 2 through 5 of the agenda.
All right, thank you, Adrian. Is there anyone in chambers who would like any of the consent items removed for separate discussion this evening? Seeing no one, do we have anyone virtually?
No virtual or written input received.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring it back to the table then.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file the documents, adopt the resolutions, and deal with the consent items as recommended.
Second by Farber.
We got a motion by Resnick, second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
We will move on to items set for public hearing, and we have 3. First is Geisler Brothers Realty LLC and Dubuque Steel Products, Inc., issuance of urban renewal tax increment revenue grant obligations pursuant to a development agreement for November 7th, 2022. Second is B Branch Creek Trail Phase 1 project for November 7th, 2022. As a reminder, items set for public hearing numbers 3 and 4 have been pulled from this agenda. So our last one is intent to create Plaza Drive urban revitalization area and setting a public hearing for November 21st, 2022.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file, adopt the resolutions, and set the public hearings for the dates and times specified.
Second by Sprang.
Got a motion by Roussel, a second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
We will move on to public hearings. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the public hearing items, please plan to approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input for the public hearing you would like to speak to. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function and state your question or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input for the public hearing you would like to speak to. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Public hearing number 1 is request to rezone Pennsylvania Avenue parcels from AG Agriculture to OR Office Residential.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the communications and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
I'll second.
Motion by Jones and a second by Roussel. Wally, please.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Wally Wernemont, Planning Services Manager with the City of Dubuque. I'm just going to go over a brief little PowerPoint of a couple of slides here, just to kind of give you an idea of where this property is in question. So the request is to rezone property from AG Agriculture to OR Office Residential to accommodate future development. That would include a mix of housing types and some office uses. So as shown on the image here, the areas outlined in red are the 2 parcels in question. They're located along Pennsylvania Avenue. The area shaded to the south is our Dubuque Industrial Center west property. The area with the hash lines going around is our corporate limits. We have some land to the left that is zoned residential in Asbury, that's single-family home development, as well to the east. And then also to the adjoining right, we have some more agricultural land with a cell tower. And to the north, there's actually 2 additional parcels that are owned by the applicant that they're not looking at developing at this time. They're going to keep that in ag and continue to farm that as they look at starting with the parcels located on Pennsylvania Avenue and kind of working to the north. So this next slide I want to be able to provide to you is our future land use map. The area shaded in orange is actually multifamily residential. So this area has been identified to be a mix of multifamily residential. It is located north of the industrial park, and as we talk about the need for workforce housing in our community, and with the proximity, the applicant, Tara Duggan, presented to the Zoning Advisory Commission, noting their request to provide some low-intensity office uses to help buffer some of that industrial zone land to the north with some transitioning into some multifamily housing. And then for future development, which may be some single-family homes to the north as they look at developing the site. They did talk about incorporating the current bike hike trail system that goes through the industrial park and kind of extend that through this development as an amenity, not only for the residents, but for the community as a whole. In an OR office residential, it allows multiple uses. It is kind of a mixed-use development, allows everything from single-family development to multifamily residential. We have been rezoning several properties. If you see most of the large-scale apartment complex, for instance, on Roosevelt West and Gardens of Dubuque, in addition to other multifamily complexes, we do look at that OR residential because it does allow that flexibility and that affordability to provide different type of housing types in our community. So the Zoning Advisory Commission held a meeting. We did have one neighbor who spoke in opposition to the request. It really wasn't in opposition to the request. It was more of an inquiry. They wanted to get a little bit more detail exactly what was going to be placed on that property. Of course, OR is a blanket zoning. There's not a detailed plan that we received at this time. It's just information that's being provided to us through the applicant. When we take it through the development review process, what will actually happen here is we'll have to have a subdivision plat, actually a preliminary plat. We'll go to a subdivision plat, and we'll go through site plan review as we look at this development through the development review team process. So that plat will actually come before this city council for the layout of the property. As you look at the chunk that's owned by the city of Dubuque here in orange, it kind of juts up and Asbury surrounds it. So we're going to have to look at connectivity, not only to Pennsylvania, but eventually making connectivity all the way up to Asbury Road, and then into some of the adjoining properties that are actually owned by the city of Dubuque. As we work with the city of Asbury, there's that parcel to the north. We'd have to have discussions about providing stub street and access to that property in the future. So the OR zoning is intended to, be a transitional zone along collector streets in Pennsylvania Avenue, and this area is defined as a collector street. It does carry a higher volume of traffic, and it will help buffer those uses from our industrial land to the south. At the city council, or at the zoning advisory commission meeting, the vote was 6-0 to recommend approval. Simple majority vote is all we need in order for the ordinance to pass. In attendance with us tonight is Rich Russell. He was the vice chairperson that was in attendance at the zoning advisory commission. If you have any questions of them. That's all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
Great, thank you, Wally.
Yep.
We are in a public hearing to consider city council approval of a request from Tara Dugan to rezone property located at Pennsylvania Avenue and from AG Agricultural to OR Office Residential, and the Zoning Advisory Commission is recommending approval. Do we have anyone in chambers to address the council on this item? Anyone? Yeah, come on up.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. I'm Tara Dugan, president of Airborne Investments, the development and investment company that owns this land. Also, some of you are probably familiar with my other company, McDermott Excavating. We have decades of experience of developing and installing street and water and utilities in residential subdivisions around Dubuque, Dyersville, New Vienna, Asbury, Piasta. Strong focus on workforce housing, fairly dense housing, areas like Sprucewood, Arrowhead, English Ridge, just really nice neighborhoods that people making a decent living in Dubuque and getting started out in home ownership can go in and buy a home. So this development will follow right along those same quality standards that we've been doing in this community for decades. Wally did a great job of explaining the specifics of this application. I just wanted to make you all aware that we intend to really cater to workforce housing, like Wally said, a little bit of a buffer to the industrial park. But I think we can get a lot of people in homes in that area to help out those employers in the industrial park. And although the OR zoning is a little broad, the goal here is to just efficiently get this rezoned into a zoning category where we can start to move some dirt and start to develop it quickly and cost effectively, because as you know, if it costs a lot to develop a land, that gets passed on, and our goal here is to create affordable housing. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Tara, for the record, could you state your address too?
Yes, 11082 English Mill Road.
Thank you very much. Any other public input on this item? Anyone virtually?
No virtual input.
Okay, bring it back to the table for discussion then, please. All right. I'm generally going to take quiet as support. We'll find out in a minute here, but I'm just going to comment on that. You know, I'm really happy to see the possibility of development moving forward in this area. We've talked housing so many times up here, and I'm very excited to see somebody answering the call. So thank you for doing that, and I'm looking forward to voting for this. All right, any other comments? All right, we have a motion by Jones and a second by Roussel to receive and file and waive the 3 readings. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Passes 7-0.
Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second.
Got a motion by Jones, second by Roussel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Farber. Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 2 is Planned Unit Development Amendment, Plaza Drive to include PR Planned Residential.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file, and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Sprank.
Motion by Roussel and a second by Sprank. Wally, please.
Yes, once again, good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Wally Wernimont, Planning Services Manager. The request before you tonight is to amend a planned unit development, which is known as Asbury Business Park. It is located along Plaza Drive, behind the AMC Theater and Blames Farm and Fleet. So I have a series of just aerial photos I'd like to step through and kind of talk about the zoning, current zoning and the proposed zoning that's before you. So the area outlined in red is the parcel that's being requested to be rezoned to PR, planned residential. for the area. But as we mentioned, this is part of the Asbury Plaza Business Park, which is that area shaded in orange, that larger quadrant of property. So back in 2005, the orange portion located to the south on your screen here was annexed, or actually rezoned to a planned unit development. As part of that planned unit development list, a bunch of permitted uses, which were kind of nature between office to commercial service types of uses. And then later on, the following year, in 2006, the northern portion was actually annexed into the city, which is the area shaded in blue. And that expanded the Asbury Business Park, but instead of just expanding the existing planned unit development for the lower portion, they actually wrote a whole new PUD ordinance for that area, which ironically is the exact same permitted uses and everything that's allowed in the southern portion. So this PUD amendment will combine both of those ordinances. And as part of that, the map that you're looking here before you will actually create two different types of districts inside that PUD. We'll have a PR planned residential zone, which is the area that's kind of shaded in that blue hatching. And then the remaining portions will still remain PC planned commercial. It's just basically taking the existing ordinance. That will remain, it's just combining those two ordinances together. This is the conceptual development plan for the zoning portion that we're referring to the new planned unit development, which will remain PC. This is what was previously approved back in 2006 and 2005. Zone B, it will establish the new PR planned residential zoning district, which is what's really kind of kicked off the whole rezoning process for this property in the first place. So this is a multifamily residential development that is being put together by Talon Development. They're calling it the Fox Hill Apartments. And this development is actually composed of 13 30-unit apartment buildings for a total of 390 units. It'll include a clubhouse with a swimming pool, a playground, a dog park. There'll be detached garages located throughout the property in addition to surface parking for the property. So, and then there will be a storage area, the area that's highlighted in purple, that would be primarily available to the residents of the multifamily residential subdivision. So the request here is to rezone that portion, combine the two together, create actually a whole new ordinance, and we'll carve out a chunk for this PR in order to allow this large-scale multifamily residential development. It is in compliance with the comprehensive plan, as you've noted and you've heard several times. There is a need for housing in our community. This will provide a good chunk of that located at the end of Plaza Drive. We'll be going through a process for a subdivision plat, in addition to site plan review for each one of these developments for that. The Zoning Advisory Commission reviewed this at their last public hearing. They recommended by a vote of 6-0 to approve the rezoning of the property to the new amended planned unit development. I know the developer is present if you have any questions of Mr. Bob Smith of Talon Development. And then we also have Rich Russell here also present to be able to answer any questions you may have of the Zoning Advisory Commission. Otherwise, that's all I have. So,
Thank you, Wally.
Yep.
We are in a public hearing to consider city council approval of a request from Talon LLC, Robert Smith, VP Development, to amend a planned unit development located at Plaza Drive to include PR planned residential, and the Zoning Advisory Commission is recommending approval. Do we have anyone in chambers to address us on this item?
Thank you for having us, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Bob Smith, 1305 Benson Road in Sioux Falls, and I'm the applicant with Talon Development and Eagle Construction. We are proposing this evening to the first portion of the development that you've just seen with the rezoning. We primarily focus on market rate workforce housing. Talon Development has been in business quite a while, and for the last 5 years, they've been able to develop 23 communities in 17 cities. We have a direct line between Talon and Eagle Construction. Eagle Construction builds those communities. For the last 20 years, they've built apartments, commercial and retail projects, medical facilities, workforce housing, and in the last 5 years, Eagle has built 25 communities, both townhome and apartment communities in the Midwest. We are the contract purchasers of the 23 acres that you've seen identified as Parcel B from Roger Sherlin. Roger Sherlin is in the audience also this evening. We're proposing to build 390 units of workforce housing on Lot 1 of Asbury Plaza 16, which was recently brought forward to identify this particular land for purchase purposes. As Wally had said, we're requesting a rezoning combining two commercial PUD areas, 2505 and 4406, that govern the zoning on Asbury Business Park. Within that, we're going to ask that the planned residential PUD be added to that combination of those so that we can be able to develop the apartments. A little more about the project that we're going to be putting on here. Our proposal is 390 units. We're going to label it as Fox Hill Apartment Communities. We're putting in 13 buildings, 3-story. Each building is 30 units plus 13 parking garages, surface parking. We're going to have a community building. We're going to have a heated pool, fitness center, tot lot, dog walking areas. We're going to have on-site office and maintenance shops and a area for tenant storage, which is exclusive for the tenants. As we're going through this, if we're successful this evening with the zoning, we'll be taking, bringing together some plans for both the land and building and submitting those to the city staff. We're anticipating going through the major subdivision, major site plan, final plat, development agreement, and a tax abatement consideration. The streets that you've seen in that is existing. They were built in about 2006 and 2008. The streets and utilities, sanitary sewer, water, and the like, it was built at that time. There's still a little bit of work that has to be done on those. Right now, they're being underutilized. They're not being used at all. We were able to buy this piece of property. We're going to keep the streets. We're going to keep that street layout, keep the utility layouts. Currently, they're identified under a easement through the final plat process. We'll take in final plat and development agreement. We'll dedicate the streets, the right-of-ways, and utility infrastructure to the city for public use. So we'll be able to keep within there all the apartments and everything will be around that infrastructure spine. Don't want to get too far over my skis right now with a lot of detail. Wally's hit a lot of good spots, but there's a couple points I want to take and bring up. And currently, we understand that the city of Dubuque is in need of housing, between 1,100 and 1,200 living units. With this, we're going to really help you out and help us out by providing 390 apartments consisting of studios, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom. Patios on them, decks on them, and if we're successful, you'll be seeing those plans come forward before you quite soon. One of the words that planners like to use and people that work with urban development is walking communities. As a lot of us have understood now what sustainability means. You can get someplace without having to use all the fuel and everything else within that's available to us. Just by virtue of being next to Asbury Plaza that has the shopping, the employment, and the entertainment, this can be considered as a walking community. We're going to develop this and put sidewalks on the inside of the development and street sidewalks. So those folks that live in there can work in there just by walking to work throughout the commercial and retail area. They have readily usable entertainment, restaurants, and the like that they can use. This is really fulfilling a lot of points of sustainability that you have on your goals and priorities that I've noticed on your website. The other point is that we're looking at developing this, starting construction in April 23, this coming spring. We'll take this thing all through design, construction, building permits and everything through the winter and break ground. We'll start with, in the southeast corner, with probably 2 or 3 buildings and the community building first, regularly and consistently move right through the whole project and build them so that we'll have a build-out in about 2 years. So we'll have complete build-out in 25. Fox Hills Apartments is a community that we can provide to the residents of Dubuque an experience of healthy and active urban living choices. We're providing quality design and quality construction. We have a professional on-site management team and on-site amenities. I think this plan is going to be an extraordinarily good asset, and we're glad to be here. Thank you, and if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. We appreciate the information.
Chuck Eisenhart, 1665 Kaufman Avenue. I am here in my role as a non-professional photographer. I say it that way because I paid too much for my equipment to be considered an amateur. But not here to oppose or to support the rezoning, but bring to the City Council's attention an issue that I think you may want to address going forward, particularly serendipitously in light of the America in Bloom Award that you received. Bring an issue to your attention that may fit within the scope of your consideration. I gave to City Manager Van Milligan 3 pictures that I've taken out at this site. Over the years since it's been developed, it's become a habitat for grassland birds. The 3 pictures I provided are one of an eastern meadowlark, one of a bobolink, and one of a dickcissel. I have not been able to photograph any of those birds anywhere else in Dubuque County, and I'm not aware, although I'm sure that there may be some places where they nest, I'm not aware of them. There are also several species of sparrows out there. I haven't had the patience for them to come out for me to photograph them, but there are a couple other gentlemen who are going to speak after me who can go into more detail with some more expert information for you. I wanted to bring it to your attention because as a sustainable city, I think one of the things we need to do is ensure, as part of our environmental impact analysis, is to provide for the mitigation of habitat impacts to wildlife. And perhaps as part of this rezoning, or perhaps as part of future development in this area, perhaps the City Council can work with other partners, Department of Natural Resources, Dubuque County, to look at ways to mitigate those impacts by perhaps recreating habitat elsewhere in the county so that those resources aren't lost to us. So it's quite by happenstance that I became aware through some folks who I take pictures with the Dubuque Camera Club that right in my own backyard I can get pictures of birds that normally I would have to go several counties away to find. I think I may have seen one eastern meadowlark out by John Deere. I wasn't sure. It was kind of a foggy day and a hazy picture, but there may be some birds out there as part of their prairie development. But I think it's a serious issue. It's the only place in Dubuque. I'm not sure when it was developed that it was necessarily intended to be a grassland bird habitat, but nevertheless, that's what it's become. Not anything that I would suggest would delay development of this, because obviously it was created for this type of development. But I think it's an issue, given our reputation and our commitment as a city,
for sustainability, that sustaining those natural resources is something we need to pay attention to. There are a couple other gentlemen who will be speaking here a little bit more detail about the resource that we do have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Eisenhart.
Good evening, Mayor Kavanaugh, members of City Council. My name is David Sheeler, 19008 Riverside Road. And I, like Chuck, am neither advocating for nor opposing the development because I think we all knew that development was inevitable eventually. But I would like to echo Mr. Eisenhart's imploration that basically this is something that the city should be aware of. And so I'm speaking to you tonight just to kind of get this in the record and maybe start a conversation. I am a biology professor at Loras College. I am a fellow of the American Ornithological Society. I'm a former president of the Waterbird Society. And I think Mayor Kavanaugh can vouch for my credentials because we used to be former colleagues. The State of the Birds just released their 2022 report, and it's pretty grim, basically. It looks at different groups of birds, from water birds to forest birds to grassland birds. And of those groups of birds, grassland birds are the most imperiled group. Their declines have been about 20 to 70%, depending on species, over the last 50 years. For whatever reason, that little patch of prairie behind Blaine's Farm and Fleet has two of the most imperiled grassland bird species nesting there. One is the bobolink, which Chuck has a picture of one of those. The other is a grasshopper sparrow, which Chuck so far has been unable to capture on film. Tony will be speaking here in a minute. Tony and I have been doing bird surveys out there for the past 6 or 8 years, and we have a pretty good database on what's nesting out there. And it is really one of the only places in the county where bobolinks nest and grasshopper sparrows nest. And again, don't know what the attraction is out there. All of the land that the Dubuque County Conservation has acquired over the past several years, the farmsteads that have been turned over and converted into prairies, don't have these species. And those are areas that are managed actively. And so, again, just wanted to bring it to the attention of council, get it in the public record that it's something to think about in the future. And again, I'm not opposing or advocating for the development of the property, but I think we all knew it was inevitable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. We appreciate that. Any other public input on this item? All right.
Tony Moline, 1756 Wood Street. I'm an Audubon board member, and Dave pretty much said everything that I had planned to say, so ditto to Dave. Again, I've monitored and conducted species inventory on that property for about 7 years. I also do it on other properties in Dubuque County, and that is the only place where those species exist. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Any other comments? Hey, do we have anyone virtually?
No virtual input.
All right, I'll bring it back to the table for discussion, please.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Russell.
In watching the Zoning Advisory Commission meeting, it just reminded me that this is just a great addition to our need for workforce housing with an experienced developer. The neighboring church came to speak in favor of it, and they'll be the neighbor. And just want to say that I think it'll be a really convenient location for the people that live there. And I love the idea of the walkability of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rousseau.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
I like everything about this proposal. I am intrigued at the possibilities of recreating some habitat somewhere else. I don't know how you do that, but I suspect that people in the room do.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Yeah, Mr. Sprank.
I was wondering if the developer had an idea of the percentage of apartments, because you mentioned studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom. I didn't know if he had an idea of how many of each they were thinking.
Yeah, if you'd like to address that, Mr. Smith, we'd appreciate it.
I don't have that number off the top of my head. At the next hearing, we'll have our plans defined, and I'll have logs and tabs and everything that will have all those. We'll have site plans, we'll have building plans, and specifically the number of units that we have. There's probably going to be more two-bedrooms than the other ones. The fewest will be studios, and the fewest will also be the three-bedrooms. But the ones and twos will be the highest number.
Understood. All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Farber.
Thank you. So in terms of just a food for thought for the wildlife, for the bird sanctuary, the University of Dubuque most recently was gifted a farmer, Walters Woods, as you know, and they seem to have an enormous amount of varietal, if you will, of different habitats and different birds, woodpeckers, bees, et cetera, pollinators. That may be an opportunity for further exploration, and I have a feeling that, David, you probably have been in contact with the professor there that is running that establishment. I just want to tee that up as a potential for some cross-fertilization or food for thought or exchange of ideas.
Thank you, Ms. Farber. Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
I'm so very excited about this development, and so thank you for choosing Dubuque. I appreciate that. I think we live in a really unique community in which we have individuals who feel passionate enough about our environment that they would come and they would speak, and so I really appreciate that, gentlemen. Thank you to you as well.
Thank you, Ms. Wethel. So, yeah, this is interesting. First of all, as far as the housing development goes, I mean, I think based on the conversation here tonight, based on my comments earlier, housing, I mean, this is something that we definitely need. It's an exciting project. It is a reminder at times of the challenges that we have in some ways living in the environment that we do. You know, we have a unique place here, and right now it's also a little bit ironic. I mean, we're in the middle of our Growing Sustainable Communities Conference. It's happening for 2 days in a row here. I was a part of that today. A lot of us were actually, and a lot of city staff are as well. So it's something that we recognize as something we need to embrace. We recognize that as we come up with our goals and priorities. What I really appreciate, gentlemen, in you addressing us tonight is that you all said, you know, it's not that you're against housing. It's not that you're against housing, even in this place in particular, but it is a unique spot, and that's intriguing in that we do need to consider how we might be able to continue to allow these birds to flourish. You were right, Dr. Sheila. I mean, I can vouch for all three of you. I know you all pretty well, actually. So, you know, this is something I've known you've been doing for a long time. Your expertise is definitely not in doubt, at least in terms of my mind. So I do think it's something that we need to talk about as a city, and I hope that we get that opportunity to do so. It would be a bit of a new frontier for us as a city government, but I don't think that should scare us at any rate to be able to discuss this in some way. I think the partnerships that are available in terms of working with the county, hopefully working with the state of Iowa, would be a possibility. And then obviously with the expertise we have in the community to figure out how can we create land that would allow these birds to flourish in another spot. It's interesting that they're there and we don't know why. And I'm hoping that's something that we could figure out. This location was created for housing. It was created for development. I'm hearing that we're generally going to be moving forward with this development based on what folks are saying around the table, and I would agree. I think that it's definitely something that we need to move forward with based on all the things we've been talking about when it comes to housing. But I hope that as we do so, we can do so carefully and we can do so in a way that works together, because that's how we get it done around here, is we figure things out together. We don't compete in trying to do this, and I definitely don't want to see us as a city of Dubuque competing with the natural environment whenever we can avoid that. So I do plan to vote for it, but I'm looking forward to further conversation on how we can make this work going forward. Obviously, I think an important point that you made tonight that fits with the points that are made by our other folks is that this is an accelerated timetable you're looking at. I mean, 2 years is a fast amount of time. That's exciting from a housing perspective, a little more challenging from the bird perspective. So I'm hoping that we can all work together on that as we move forward. But I know I do plan to vote for it. So yeah, Mike.
Mr. Mayor, I would just like a point of clarification. I've heard terms like we all work together. We're not talking about the developer. The developer's here to get his property rezoned. He's gonna get, it sounds like, his property rezoned. He's gonna move ahead with his development.
I would agree. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that that's a good thing to point out. I mean, the fact that this land is, you own it and you get it rezoned, you can move forward in the direction that your plans move. We wouldn't, I don't think I'm hearing anything here at this table that would say anything different than that. So there is clarification on that. I think what I'm saying and then working together is that along with that, as much as we can do together to try and mitigate this particular issue, but I think that is going to involve further discussion, not something that's going to be able to be dealt with here based on the item on the agenda tonight. Any further discussion? Okay. The motion is to receive and file, waive the 3 readings. So Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Sprank.
Got a motion by Roussel, a second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 3 is disposal of city interest in previously vacated street and alley right-of-way areas in the city of Dubuque, Iowa.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
move to receive and file the documents and adopt the resolution.
Second.
A motion by Jones and a second by Resnick. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. City Engineer Gus Zahoyas is recommending City Council adopt a resolution disposing of the previously vacated right-of-way property described as Lot AA and Lot BB of Grandview Place to the Dubuque Golf and Country Club for a lump sum of $67,000. The City of Dubuque will reserve an easement for existing utilities over the southerly portions of Lot AA and Lot BB as shown on the plat. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council approval of a resolution disposing of the previously vacated right-of-way property described as Lot AA and Lot BB, Grandview Place, in the Dubuque Golf and Country Club for a lump sum of $67,000, and the city manager is recommending approval. We have anyone to address the council on this item? Anyone virtually?
No virtual input.
Okay, back to the table then for discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Farber.
I would like to recuse myself from this vote as I own property on the property at question.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Farber. All right, seeing no further discussion then, we have a motion by Jones, second by Resnick. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Roussel. Resnick. Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 4 is public hearing for sale of city-owned property at 2414 Windsor.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Farber.
Got a motion by Resnick, second by Farber. Lots of competition up here. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Housing Committee Development Director Alexis Stager is recommending City Council approve the purchase agreement for 2414 Windsor to Darnell Meekins in the amount of $140,000. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council approval of the purchase agreement for 2414 Windsor to Darnell Meekins. And the City Council is City Manager is recommending approval. Do we have anyone in chambers to comment on this publicly? Anyone virtually?
No virtual input.
Okay, back to the table then for any discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr.
Just a
Resnick.
quick question. This was redeveloped, when we're going to sell this, was this originally an apartment or a duplex? Did they take this and change it back? Or is it planned to be made into apartments? Or is this a single family and now going to be a single family?
So we'll let Housing and Community Development Director Alexis Stager respond to that.
Housing and Community Development Director Alexis Sayer. So this actually was a vacant building that was not being used and was purchased for the True North Initiative. Previously, it had been used as an up-down kind of I guess, back and front up and down duplex. The back was removed because it was falling down. So it was turned into a single-family home due to the removal of that back side.
I see. And in the past, we've put an agreement on that if they were going to buy a house, that they would agree for a certain time not to return it to, rental property. But it sounds like this is not one of those cases because it was just deserted, it was abandoned.
Right, this was an abandoned property.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Seeing no further comment, then we have a motion by Resnick, second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 5 is fiscal year 2023 first budget amendment.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the documents and adopt the resolution.
Second?
Motion by Jones and a second by Resnick. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Director of Finance and Budget Jennifer Larson is recommending approval of the first fiscal year 2023 budget amendment, which amends the fiscal year 2023 budget for City Council action since the beginning of the fiscal year and includes items which City Council has expressed support. Second, the amendment includes fiscal year 2022 budget carryovers to fiscal year 2023 of encumbrances totaling $25,933,506, capital projects totaling $77,968,254 that were not completed during the prior fiscal year, and associated revenues totaling $39,835,408. There are operating budget appropriation carryovers of $6,845,094 and operating receivables of $2,249,573. Also, total transfers between funds of $17,956,645 are reflected. The capital budget amendments totals an increase of $438,001 with a decrease in associated revenue of $8,569,836. The capital amendment items include an increase of $1,235,000 to adjust the capital budget for sales tax increment funds received, which includes B Branch Maintenance Facility, B Branch Railroad Culverts, Comiskey Park Connection, the Upper Lower B Branch, and 17th Street Storm Sewer improvements. Capital budget amendment decreases the fiscal year 2023 budget by $4,150,743 for projects that pre-spent the budget in fiscal year 2022. The projects pre-spent include Mystique Settling Remediation, Dubuque Industrial Center Property Development, water seal walls at South Plant, the sanitary sewer Mullen Road, and airport aqueous film forming foam. The capital budget amendment items also include an increase of $2,631,546 to adjust the capital budget for the Community Development Block Grant, which includes Iowa Economic Development Authority CDBG CV grant, commercial industrial rehab, purchase, resale, and rehab, the homeless shelter rehab, COVID shelter, building relocation, low and moderate income parks, lead paint abatement, neighborhood broadband, Avon Park, reimagine Comiskey Park amenities, residential rehab, street overlays, first-time home buyers, credit repair program, child care assistance, Comiskey new entrance, Comiskey security alarm, and bus stop improvements. Capital amendment items include an increase of $224,857 for additional or new grants for projects, which includes the airport aqueous film forming foam FAA funds and Four Mounds property acquisition REAP grant. The capital amendment reduces fiscal year 2023 American Rescue Plan Act revenue by $10,963,075 due to the funds being received in fiscal year 2022. The operating budget amendment totals an increase of $943,311, with an increase in associated revenue of $2,633,347. The operating amendment expense includes new grants of $783,696, which includes $510,000 for arts and cultural affairs, and the AmeriCorps grant of $273,696. Community Development Block Grant revenue of $2,363,334 is included, which offsets projects carried over to fiscal year 2023. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are on a public hearing to consider City Council approval of the first fiscal year 2023 budget amendment, which amends the fiscal year 23 budget amendment for City Council action since the beginning of the fiscal year and includes items which City Council has expressed support and the City Manager is recommending approval. Anyone in chambers to address us on this item? Anyone virtually?
No virtual input.
Okay, back to the table then for discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Resnick.
Just to ask the question and ask and answered, this change doesn't really change any choices we made last March, correct? It just accommodates the flow of dealings, financial activities. And so the monies that you talked about really doesn't affect the priorities and the choices we voted on in March. It just accommodates those flows, correct?
That's my understanding, unless you have actually approved a change since then.
Right.
And Jennifer, is there anything different you'd want to respond about that?
Okay, so, and that's usually the case. It just seems like with all these numbers floating around, I just wanted the citizens to know that we are, it's the financial dealings the way they are, and they're professionally dealt with, so thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no further discussion then, we have a motion by Jones and a second by Resnick. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Motion passes 7-0.
We will move on to public input. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting may address the City Council on the action items on the agenda or on matters under the control of the City Council. For all in-person attendees, please approach the podium and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Individual remarks are limited to 5 minutes, and the overall public input period is limited to 30 minutes. Under the Iowa Open Meetings Law, the City Council can take no formal action on comments given during public input or that do not relate to the action items on the agenda.
Thank you, Adrian. We have public input this evening.
Good evening. My name is Maddie Nasuti. I live at 2410 Broadway. I was here before in March 21. I want to talk about that. But first of all, the North End has seen a dramatic increase in violence. We had automatic weapons fired down my street. We had murders. The consensus on my street is this council does not support the police. And part of the problem for me personally is Ms. Brumwell and Ms. Steger. They're huge obstacles to law and order and public safety here. Now, I have provided all of you with my complaint with HUD OIG. I mean, it's really nice to talk about the importance of rental property, but this city is not managing the Section 8 program competently. And as a result, it is creating a danger. It is a danger on my street. It's a danger citywide. I don't have time to go through all of that because I have another issue to talk about. It's actually old news. I was here on March 21st. I made another proposal which had the support of the Dubuque Police Department, and I got no support here. The proposal was we have a significant problem here with abandoned vehicles. Unlicensed vehicles are all over the North End. And not only are they unlicensed and are not registered, but they also don't have insurance. So I came here in March and I gave you a specific proposal. One sentence that you put into your traffic ordinance that pulls in the Iowa code and fixes everything. It's the law all over the state, one sentence. So Ms. Bromwell did nothing for 6 months, in my opinion. That's unacceptable. This is a significant problem. So now she tells me that last month you folks enacted some change to the traffic code. I looked at it. You really need to hire attorneys for your city council, for your city attorney's office. You need real attorneys, because what you enacted last month you need to change because it's illegal. You can't do that. I'm going to try to explain to it in 3 minutes what's illegal about it. It's so simple. A first-year law student would tell you it's illegal. Here's the deal. The Iowa legislature has enacted the motor vehicle code, okay? They've said in the motor vehicle code that they consider seizing abandoned, towing illegal cars. It's part of the licensing thing. It's very important. So, under Section 23, they enacted 2 criteria. You have to meet both criteria because it's part of the licensing code. It preempts you. You don't have any authority to change that. The 2 criteria are the vehicle has to be not registered, and it has to be on the street for 24 hours unattended. If it does, you can tow it. Okay? So, what I proposed to you in March is you adopt that. Just pull it in, adopt it. The police supported it, but you wouldn't do it. So your city attorney created a whole new plan. It's crazy. Why create a plan when the statute is already there by the legislature? But what she did is she took the 2 requirements in the Iowa code and she dropped one. Now, under what you approved last month, you can tow a vehicle as long as it's unlicensed. You can't do that, folks. The when the legislature set up the Iowa code, they adopted a provision called 321.236. And what it says is the motor vehicle code can't be touched by you except for traffic enforcement and parking. So for example, if you want to change lanes or say you can't park on this side of the street or change some of the fines, you can fiddle with the parking provisions of the motor vehicle code, but you can't touch anything else. The way it's set up in the motor vehicle code is section 1 to 227, you can't touch. That's licensing and registration. That's preempted. After 228, that's sections where the city can come up with its own plans. Well, the provision to seize and impound vehicles is in section 23. You can't touch it. You cannot do this. What you did last month is create a plan which is what they call ultra-virus. It's illegal. And what it means is somebody will eventually challenge you, and it's really easy because a first-year law student would see you can't do it. Under section 321.236, you just can't do it. So what'll happen is every tow that occurs, you're going to wind up owing those people the tow charges, plus their damages, maybe even their attorney's fees. Maybe the lawsuit will happen in a year, 2 years, 3 years. You'll be out millions of dollars, or will be out millions of dollars, just because you don't have competent counsel here. You can't.
Mr. Mayor,
No, I'm going to actually stop you there, Mr. D'Souza.
we can't do it.
Thank you, Mr. Resnick. If you're going to talk about the details that you want to talk about, you can talk to us about the facts, but you're done impugning the character of any counsel or anyone else at this table. You can talk about the things that have been done, but please stick to the facts on that.
All right. Well, again, I'm advising you. I can't force you to obey the law. In my view, you're not obeying the law under Section 8. I've detailed to you really horrific things going on all around this city. Well, I don't want to indicate, but the city's not doing anything about it. So my view tonight is before you leave tonight, you need to suspend what you did last month. You can't continue to tow vehicles illegally. The liability is too high for the city. You're probably not going to do it. You're going to rely on, but you need to do that, or the city manager needs to revoke his authority, his delegated authority, which essentially suspends the program. You need to suspend the program. The whole concept is KISS. Keep it simple. I don't want to say the last word. And what I propose to you is one sentence. You pull in the Iowa code, you say the Iowa code applies here just like it does throughout all the rest of it, and everything's solved. What happened is what you approved last month, It doesn't make any sense. The Iowa Code says that the police make the decision as to whether to impound a vehicle. Instead, you adopted this whole new scheme that the city manager makes the decision. There's no reason to do that. It's another layer of bureaucracy. And I will tell you something else. You've had this ordinance for a month. There's no impact on the street. I mean, people know that it's a mess. People know it's not being enforced. I see just as many unlicensed, unplated vehicles driving around the north end as a month ago. It's not having any impact. What normally happens is when you make a change that the bad people understand, it ripples immediately all across the city. It's amazing how quick the system works. But nobody considers what you did last month serious because it's not. So it's not impacting anybody.
We're at 7 minutes and 30 seconds
Okay,
now, Mr.
well then,
Student, so I'll let you
I
finish up what
apologize.
you want to say here. And
No, I have nothing else. I mean, I could talk for hours, but I don't have the time. Thank you very much.
thank you very much for your comments. Do we have any other public input this evening? Okay, anything virtually, Adrian?
No virtual input.
Okay. Thank you. Then we will move on to action items.
Action item number 1 is Leisure Services Recruitment Plan Presentation.
Need a motion on this one?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file and witness the presentation.
Second by Farber.
Motion by Resnick, second by Farber. So, Mike, you first, or we?
No, Dan and Marie are going to present.
All right.
Thank you, Will.
Maybe,
Maybe.
if it's. Marie's our resident IT person.
Yeah, it's always good to have a resident IT person in every single department. That is true.
Enable content, it's not doing it. It's not allowing you to do that. Because if you don't do that, it's not gonna come up. Let's try it here. I would just hit your page. See, it's not gonna. Yeah.
It
Because see,
won't let
says it
us
won't
get
let
out
us
of the
enable
content.
Mine's yeah. Try it again. I just laid it down. Oh, now it's not even responding to that. There you go. Okay.
That'll work.
Hey, look at you.
How many city employees does it take?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Was waiting for the joke there, Wally. All right, so, Dan, we're ready for you.
Mayor, council, thank you for having me. Dan Kroger, Recreation Division Manager. Our mission for our department is to provide this community with equitable, high-quality, and inclusive opportunities that will create impactful experiences. Going through this process with staff, we realized that we needed to be more intentional and focus or include our staff in that mission statement, because our staff are also our customers, right? So this following presentation will provide some background as well as steps being taken as part of this plan. Just this year, during goal setting, you, the council, added a new high priority, and that's Sutton Pool staffing and operational needs. While lifeguards are a major need, especially based on the impact that the lack of lifeguards had in this community last year, this plan is more global. It's going to focus on all of our
department staffing needs because we have shortages in almost every area. Hiring temporary employees is not unique necessarily, but hiring seasonal temporary employees is definitely a little bit harder. And that's especially apparent for agencies and for non-for-profits that look for these specific individuals or groups to work for us throughout the year. So what's going on just nationally? There have been large national news chains that have run stories on staffing shortages throughout the country. There's been some specific to lifeguards, as well as in different publications throughout the country. I was recently, just a couple weeks ago, at our National Park and Recreation Conference. It has over 6,500 professionals that attend these conferences annually. So it's a pretty big group. And this is, staffing and recruitment is a huge topic. It was in conversation during lunches, it was in conversation in the hallways, and there were several sessions around recruitment as well as wages. And you know, these rooms that we were in were 300 to 500 people, and the conversations were always the same. So this is an uphill climb. This is a big challenge for us. Also, the NRPA, our National Recreation and Park Association, in May did a survey with over 1,100 agencies that participated, which is not uncommon for our group. And of that survey, a couple of the key points that came out of that was 80% of the agencies reported lost employees due to higher wages in their community. Those were both, they lost employees through retention, they didn't come back, and when asked why, that was the reason, or they lost staff during the season to those higher wages in the community as well. To me, what's actually more alarming than that, and what's a major concern, is the next bullet, which is the 44% stated that employees were no longer comfortable working in public-facing positions. You know, wages and things like that can hopefully be worked out and fixed in the future, but an individual's avoidance of our field because of that frontline work is, like I said, that's very concerning. Especially now, past COVID, you know, there have been a heightened incidence of volatile interactions, impatience, different things like that, where, you know, for the number of our seasonal employees that are coming to work for us, this is their first job that they've had. They haven't had any formal conflict resolution training. You know, these aren't instances that they are used to being into. And if we don't do something about that while they're with us through training, through support, we're going to continue to lose these individuals. So even with these staffing shortages, it's not like the different services that we provide this community go away, right? So just because we don't have staff, the grass isn't going to stop growing. Kids aren't going to still need a place to go in the summer, so we have to figure something out. Some of the impacts from these shortages have been that 53% reported from these agencies that they had to have an increased workload for all levels of staff, from full-time staff down to seasonal staff. And we've seen that locally here in our department, where we have full-time staff having to cover for shifts, as well as some part-time staff having to add hours. The other option is, and what some of these agencies reported, was 47% reduced or eliminated their program. As we all know, this past summer, one of our unfortunate actions was we had to close one of our pools. And so we are going to work towards how we can avoid that from happening again. So locally, again, kind of working from the bottom up on this slide, we've all seen the signs in the windows. We've seen the newspaper articles, most recently even with some long-term businesses that are closing because they're claiming they don't have staff, or they don't have staff and they're not claiming it. And so it's impacting this community widely. Private businesses, how they've responded to this, the larger food chains, other businesses locally, their answer has been to just increase wages. The average wage for a service industry is over $14.50 just in our neighborhood, going through like Indeed, going through different newspaper articles, that kind of stuff. And many of the businesses are offering $15 an hour to $19 an hour, some with bonuses. Private businesses can do this because for many of the larger businesses, it's a matter of how much money or what they're, how much money they're going to make and how much money they're willing to spend to have their employees to maybe cut into their profits, or they can increase their costs or whatever it was so they can make up that difference. For us, it's not that easy, right? Because especially in our department that is is a little bit over 50% subsidized, the raising of wages or those kind of costs is a direct cost to our subsidies, right? Within our department, 50% of our needed positions were filled in the summer of 2021, and just this last year, 72% of our needed positions were filled, and I'll get into those numbers a little bit later. So the goals for our plan, these are not just for this upcoming spring and summer, these are for beyond that. We can't just focus on the hiring of the staff, we need to spend a lot of our focus on the retention of the staff. We want to make sure that the individuals that we bring in to work for us have an enjoyable experience. They get what they want out of the experience, they learn what they want to learn, they feel supported, and they want to come back. So we're going to hopefully do that through an increase in expanded engagement. So that includes the marketing. It also includes the communication with our partners, with our current staff and with our future staff. There will be evaluation, providing and allowing for input from them to help us improve our programs and services in the future and really make them part of the whole and not just their particular duties. It's about relationships. Process improvement, looking at the application process, the onboarding process, and the training. So improving those and making those more accessible and more beneficial to the applicant. We want 70% at least of our workforce in place by April and 50% annual retention. So how are we going to get there? We have a recruitment team that is made up of not just leisure services, but several of the departments. The Public Information Office has been a great resource for us and a great partner and extremely helpful, not just going forward, but even in the past. Same with the Human Resources Department, as well as the Office of Shared Prosperity. So we're all going to be working together as a team to help combat this shortage that we're facing. Temporary employment is a cyclical process, and it is really amplified when you're talking seasonals. Because unlike part-time employment, unlike some other temporary positions, unlike full-time positions, when individuals apply for us for a seasonal position, their job offer has an end date already on it. And so there is a natural disconnect from the time that we have them and then they're gone to the time we need them back. So it's really a year-round process, starting with, well, you could start anywhere you wanted to, but we're going to start in the fall in October when, for instance, we start with our fall brochure, putting just some teasers in there about, hey, don't forget about us for this summer. Look for some different opportunities that are coming, to looking through our job descriptions, as well as looking at wages, a bunch of other just logistical pieces. And then come the winter in December and January, with Christmas break and a time when a lot of the college students are home, people are off of work, those kind of things, looking to develop some new events and really start with some new connections. Then we would move on to January through March, which is where we'll be onboarding. We'll be doing our different trainings with the staff that we're bringing on, continued community conversations. And then getting into April, where we'll do a final push, and I mentioned before having 70% of the workforce in place by April, because that's the time when, as a staff, we have to start making some decisions as far as different programs as well as facilities. We need to be able to project how many staff we have so that we can project the type of programs we're going to have and advertise for. We need supplies, we need facilities, so that we can send out in early May a summer brochure that is accurate and can allow people to plan for their summer to come. And then you get into May through August, when staff are onboarded, staff are working, and we're going through everything, and that's when we need to foster those relationships with our staff. We need to create environments that they're enjoying, and there's some other things that we'll talk about a little bit later. And then when the summer is over and those staff leave us in the middle of August or so for most of our jobs, we want to speak with them about their experience. We want to get input on how we can do stuff better next year. We want to make them part of our plans for the future year, and we want to stay in communication with them. And then you get back in October and it just keeps going and going and going. And the hope is that by having those connections and having those relationships, that we can grow the workforce and have that retention to where we're only having to bring on an X percentage of new individuals every year instead of a much larger number. I mentioned earlier, I'd talk a little bit about our staffing from last summer. This graph is the kind of an age breakdown of our staff. And the first thing that I think is fairly interesting is we don't just hire high school kids, right? We hire ages all the way from 15 for the seasonal positions up to, we may have a couple that are in their 50s and 60s. But each area is a little bit different in what we recruit for and what we focus. So typically our 15-year-olds, those first two columns there are our lifeguards, there are playground staff, there are after-school staff, and then some of our leadership gets into that 18, 20, more that 20, 24 age group. And then the bulk of our laborers in the summer are over the age of 24. So there's different age demographics for different positions that we try to recruit for. So there's kind of a different way that we need to recruit for these different areas. So I'd mentioned the 70%. So 171 individuals hired. That's out of 237 that we would need for a full operation this summer. That's across the board. That's pools, programs, park maintenance, the whole thing. And so I had asked just the other day, I thank Nikki in the GIS department. She turned around some data for me extremely fast. So I appreciate that. Shout out to her. For the 15 to 17-year-olds, according to our latest census, so that we hired just over 30 this last summer. There's actually over 2,000 individuals in that age group in the community. For 18 to 20, there's over 3,500 individuals, and we've hired just over 40. So there's a big market out there for some of these individuals to get interested into what we do. So with everything, there are some barriers that we have seen, and these came from discussions with staff, both our full-time supervisors as well as our seasonal staff this past year, and also through conversations with other local professionals as well as national professionals. One of our biggest barriers is timing. The timing that we hire is inherently inequitable. And what I mean by that is we start recruiting because we need to plan for our summer in late fall and winter. But the people that we're recruiting for aren't actually going to get a paycheck and start working until May. So it's a little bit, it's a unique individual that is willing to spend the time with us up front, but then have to wait a few months before they start working and getting their paychecks. Retention is a barrier. One, just because of natural advancement, meaning a lot of our younger adults or youth that work for us go to college and then find another career, a full-time career, and they move on. That's just, there's not anything we can really do about that, unless they go into the great career of Parks and Recreation, which would be fantastic. And then there's also that public-facing piece, which makes it very hard to keep, especially those first-time employees. Competing schedules. Kids nowadays, kids nowadays, it sound like some, back in my day, schedules are way different. The athletes are 12-month-a-year athletes. It doesn't matter if you're in high school or you're in college or in little leagues these days, right? Schedules are crazy. So having the time to work for us is something that we need to try to work through. In some cases, it also means that we may need to hire more individuals than we have in the past. Because what we've also seen more of recently is the applicant coming to us and saying, I would love to work with you, and here's all my experience, or here's what I want to accomplish, and we're like, great, but I can only work for you Tuesday and Thursday. Okay. It used to be that when individuals would apply for positions, especially in our field, I mean, that's what I'm used to, right? It was come work for us and we're going to tell you when you're going to work. Okay, we'll be there, right? But now it's being dictated to us a little bit, so that's a big challenge. And a lot of that has to do with people are so busy. Wages, mentioned that, again, till a little bit later too. Buy-in. Buy-in is from our local partners. It's from other institutions. It's from everybody right now, not just our department is struggling to hire. And so getting that buy-in from other organizations or groups that also hire or work with similar age groups that we're looking for is difficult. Requirements. Lifeguard certifications is an example. We've mentioned this for the last couple of seasons now. There was an improvement level package a couple of years ago that fortunately you all approved that allows us to pay for those certifications now. So we've taken that barrier away. But one thing that is that people don't realize sometimes when we may have removed the barrier of certification, but there is a certain level of basic skill that has to be involved as well when we're talking about lifeguards. That individuals come to us and they find out, oh, I have to swim 300 yards or whatever it is, and they just can't do it. So we need to figure out a way when they're younger to get them more involved in swimming, so that's something that when those individuals get to us, they're already ready. There's also other requirements, not to just stick with the pools, but for state code for operating a public facility. You know, as you can imagine, we do get a lot of suggestions, and we definitely welcome and enjoy feedback, and we take it very seriously. You know, but people will come to us, or I've heard on the phone before, well, you know, can't you just hire some younger person that's not necessarily a lifeguard to stand on top of the slide, because all they're really doing is telling people when to go down and whatever, or during an adult swim when you don't need as many lifeguards and people are only in the shallow area, couldn't you have maybe a less skilled or whatever individual working in that area? State code does not allow you to do that. State code says every single individual in that pool facility that is a lifeguard has to have the exact same training and the exact same certification no matter where they are located, unless they're at the front counter taking money or they're at the concession stand. So those are just some challenges that we have. Also, being outdoors. You know, the summer at a playground program can be pretty taxing, especially on a 90-some degree day. And we don't want to close those sites necessarily because of the heat, because those kids need a place to go. And so that can be very taxing on individuals, and they might not want to spend their time outside in the summer, as well as the nature of the frontline service, which we mentioned before. So what we do, and if we can, there's a video that we're going to play real quick here, and then I'll get into these bullet points.
This program is important for the community of Dubuque because this allows kids to come here, feel safe from all different backgrounds, and we're really here just to talk with them and make them feel like they're important, which they are. We provide a safe environment for kids, and we also provide them with a free lunch or breakfast through the Boys and Girls Club.
We have lots of fun games that we plan out. We do lots of arts and crafts, lots of sports stuff. I know we've done dodgeball, we've done kickball, we've done chalk. A lot of the time we even poll the kids, even see what they want to do.
I come here every summer, so I've made a lot of friends over the years. Come on.
So I definitely think this service is beneficial for the parents and guardians because it's good to have a break, a mental break, a physical break, whatever parents and guardians need. And that's what we're here for them as well, not just for the kids.
Parents do need a break. My son just actually started this year. I'm having him join it just to interact with other kids and to be active. I would highly recommend it for other parents to use the program.
As a kid that was in the program back in the day, I felt like I had a community I got to go to every summer, just like a summer camp.
When I was a kid, my mom said, ride your bike over to the park, see if you like it. And I went there and I met so many friends first day, and I wanted to go back day after day after day.
That's what made me want to become a leader and do exactly what the leaders before me did, and that was make me feel safe, make me feel included.
So there's actually a couple reasons why we played that video, and there's one more after that in a second here. And we did not give a script to any of these staff members you're going to hear from. But it's just, I found it interesting that we're hiring individuals for this community for a lot of the things that she said in that video. We provide a service, a much needed service, no matter if it's playgrounds or the pools or after school care, before school care, or you name it. We provide educational opportunities throughout the summer and throughout the year, a safe environment. Our park staff and our golf staff do a fantastic job as far as beautifying the city. Quality of life opportunities and experiences. The people that we bring in here can make a major impact on their own community, and I'll talk about that too in a second. Maybe. There we go. So I've got one more video for you.
Hi, my name is Ava Sigworth, and I'm a lifeguard with the City of Dubuque.
Put our face straight back in, just like that, okay?
I was born and raised in Dubuque, and I grew up around the water. I was a competitive swimmer. I chose to spend my summer as a lifeguard because a bunch of my friends are also lifeguards with me. Our staff environment is great, and also, bonus, you get a great tan. So as a lifeguard, I have primary and secondary responsibilities. An example of a primary responsibility would be scanning the water, searching for possible drowning victims, and then secondary would be preventative, so seeing things before they happen and stopping them so that it never can escalate. All of our trainings and our work on the job has really made me feel more confident. I know customer service, I can deal with all sorts of people. I have learned to have my own voice. Additionally, I can use these skills every day. Teaching swimming lessons helped me determine my college major. I chose elementary education. I really just enjoyed and found my passion in working with the little kids and kind of teaching them and watching them grow. There are so many benefits to our job. Recently, we got a pay raise, which I think is really well deserved, seeing the work we do for our community and all the training we have to go through. You will find your own inner sense of self, and you may even find something that you want to do for the rest of your life, like I did.
Okay, couple of things we all...
You know, after a long day, it gets a little bit tiring, but I still go home and I think, wow, I saved that kid today, or wow, I prevented a save from happening. I have a very strong sense of pride working here.
All right, once again, I did not put any of those words in her mouth. But one of the advantages that we have as a park and recreation agency is what we can offer the individuals that come and work for us. We have diverse job opportunities. Individuals do have the opportunity to work in multiple settings if they would like to get new experiences on a daily basis. The opportunity to make a difference, which I believe she referenced, as well as important skill development and training for our future leaders. This is about making that connection. One of the things that we need to focus on as an industry, and especially as here in Dubuque, is making the why known to the individuals in our community. Why us? What are those connections? Again, a couple of the things she mentioned in there was the communication skills that are learned, decision making. As you can imagine, lifeguards have to make decisions on a hourly, if not minute basis, but that's the same thing for our individuals that work with our youth throughout the summer as well. The mentoring, the teaching, the creativity, flexibility, emergency response, and so on, and the fun. The common theme through the sessions that I went to at our conference, as well as in our conversations here with the team, we need to make those connections. That is crucial for us to have success in our hiring process. Internally, for those individuals, we need to give them the why. And externally, we need to connect them to the work experiences. If they are looking to go on and do something in their future, we can tie in pretty much any profession that they want to go to, we can get them in the right position in our field, and we can tie them into those skills. It's a wonderful advantage that we have, and we need to take advantage of it. So what are some of our actions to try and accomplish these things? Competitive wages is something that we are looking into, and hopefully we will be able to have some recommendations to you soon. You've already thankfully approved for 4 of our positions this past spring, those increases, which have been greatly effective, we feel. We're going to improve our onboarding process with early job offers, onboarding successes, as well as more accessible documentation, whether it's online or easily attainable, as well as online resources and training. An increased social media presence. So we're going to expand our platforms, not just in Facebook, but to move on to what are more popular depending on the age group. So those TikToks and Instagrams. I said that with a plural. I don't know why. They're just one thing. As well as working with our staff. Word of mouth is the #1 effective way to recruit the younger generation. They need to hear it from their peers that it's a valuable experience and it's worth it. So we need to work with our staff, our current staff, to help us promote. As well as the PIO office, thankfully to Randy and his team, at the end of last year, we created a career webpage that's focused around lifeguards, and we're going to expand that to be all of the positions that we're looking for. You know, we offer over 25 positions just in the summer in our department. And so we want to be able to answer as many questions and to make as many connections as possible as we can with those websites. We're also going to be doing an event over Christmas break. Actually, it'll be in the first week of January. It's going to be something like a job fair, but it's going to be more of an event. It's going to be more fun. It's going to be more attractive. It's going to be a place where we can interact with individuals that might want to be a part of our team, and make it just an enjoyable, just fun takeaway for them. We'll also be able to have the ability to help people fill out applications online at that event, as well as potentially do some interviews before people go back to school. So, targeted employment Q&As for marginalized populations. That's working with the Office of Shared Prosperity and their team. Working with a couple of the different communities in town, we're going to have several one-on-one meetings and trainings with them to explain the process, the onboarding process, as well as the different jobs that we offer, and really focus on the flexibility that we can provide for different positions to make them as accessible as possible. In-school marketing. Internal recognition programs, that's that piece during the season when we're keeping the staff involved. Different trainings, we have our lifeguard certification, as well as now all of our NeoGov trainings that we have are accessible to seasonal staff as well as that post-employment communication, so the exit surveys, the off-season check-ins, and that just continued connection. The potential upcoming budget impact. So for wages, we're looking into some wage adjustments for positions that were not addressed this past spring. That second number there, those prior increases, that was from the four positions: the lifeguard, the pool manager, the playground, and the after-school staff positions that already had the wages increased to a competitive level. And the potential fiscal, the general estimate is that other number, but we have not brought that for a presentation yet. Many forms of the marketing are free. You know, we talked about word of mouth, and that's going to be one of our biggest focuses and our energy put into this plan. As well as there will be some additional funds needed that will be presented to you in the form of an improvement level package at the next fiscal year. So before I close, I do want to thank you all again for those increases that you approved earlier this spring, as well as that improvement level package for the lifeguard certification and placing the temporary staffing and operational needs on your city council goals and priorities as a high priority. So thank you for that. And I can take any questions. They all thank you too.
Well, thank you very much, Dan.
Mr. Mayor.
All right, yeah, Mr. Jones.
I was just clicking around while you were presenting, looking at the syllabus for lifeguard training and some of the things like that. The syllabus word got me thinking. Another hook that you might be able to use, and it's going to require a little work, but maybe one of the colleges would offer you 2 credits of science credit for taking a lifeguard course if the syllabus and course guide were written well enough to convince the deans that that was an attractive offering to them. Because if I'm a kid with limited time in my hands in the age group you're looking for, if I can learn a new skill, put some money in my pocket, put a couple credits in the graduation bank, I would find that very attractive.
Thank you.
I don't know if you can sell that one to the institutions around here or not.
We'll try to sell anything.
But I do see a couple of other colleges around the country that offer 2.0 credits for lifeguard certification.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. So I've been in 3 professions that use recruiting. And music and sports and colleges, they all have recruiters. And they all, one thing I know that they all use is family connections. You know, this person went to this college, how about you have any siblings? You know, you're taking piano lessons. I see you have a couple of younger, but we're gonna talk to them and have that experience. Same thing with sports. My brothers and I were all on the same team. It was like, we're on this team, that kind of traditional thing worked for us and family members. And the public-facing issue is tough. We just saw it tonight with our exemplary city attorney. That sometimes it's tough. I remember being an umpire for an adult softball league. Ooh. And I have a pretty good sense of self.
We need some, so
and
if
it
you're
was
still
brutal. So I get that, and so that is a challenge. So I'm sure the 3 things I talked about had this person-to-person reaching out to the schools or to the families, develop a tradition in the family of you're working as a park person. I mean, my mother was working as a park person in Davenport, Iowa, and always made us want. Then we had several of us kids work as a park person, as a leader, just knowing that my mother did it, and it was kind of tradition. It's who we are, it kind of felt like. So families really help. I'm sure you're looking at that. And then asking them to sign up, in February, and then they don't work till May. Maybe there's a $25 bonus if they show up that first day of work, or something. I mean, I'm sure you've thought of a lot of different things. Those are my ideas. I appreciate the great list of things that your team has thought about, and we really wish you the best of luck. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Farber.
So my first job as a high schooler was being a tennis teacher, if you will, instructor for the city rec. And I did that for like 3 years, and I found the experience very, very, it built self-esteem, and it just really helped broaden my experience level, if you will, and also, got me to bounce balls all summer, so it was kind of fun in that respect. Thank you for the presentation. I thought it was multifaceted and very overall arching. And I very much think that the year-long attention to how you are setting up your marketing is very important. And I parallel that to running a restaurant where we target the same ages as you do. And I know that it's challenging, especially when you have high schoolers who the next year go off to college, and maybe you see them or maybe you don't see them in that summer timeframe. I think you have two key media recruiting tools here, and those are the two videos that you shared with us. And I would suggest that everyone who walks in the door somehow gets to see those videos, because those are two peers, potential peers that are sharing their experiences, unscripted, as you mentioned, and it also shows a diverse population of who we're serving. And one of the things that we talked about when we talk about housing needs, and we talk about population expansion, and we talk about all the social amenities that we need in Dubuque so that people can work and play and enjoy living here. And these amenities for summer recreation and for health and wellness cannot be underscored how important that they are for us. So as much as you do for the round year and communication with the schools, colleges, I think, may have some potential there for you also. And, give us a shout out if we can, help you with, friends and family. Let us know what we can do for you also. But thank you very much. But I just thought those videos were just, powerful marketing tools.
If you follow us on Facebook, there's another one coming out soon.
Look forward to seeing it. Thank you. Keep it up.
Thanks.
Mr. Spring.
Thank you, Dan and Marie. I know this is a big hill to climb, and I literally stood up for this at our goal setting, because I understand that this is a big challenge, and I applaud everything that you've come up with. This is a phenomenal start, so thank you for all the true work. I also look at it as we have to think so far out of the box right now, because we know the demographics have changed, and you've said there's this targeting number, and the thing that I've heard is like, oh, okay, well, you're waiting forever to get hired. Thinking outside of the box here, we help a lot of non-for-profits who are needing labor. What if we could negotiate with some of those non-for-profits as to be like, well, we can bring you some temporary labor when you need it during the school year, and then in the summer, those workers are back for us. So it'd be like an after-school program. So yeah, but then they would not get the funds that they might need, but we would be potentially providing some labor. Mm-hmm. It's like I said, it's thinking outside the box, but but instead of granting them grant dollars, we are providing them labor, because so many of these industries are hurting. And I think it would help get these kids potentially a rounder kind of education of everything. It would give them a sense of like, oh, this is what the Dream Center does. This is what St. Mark's does. I don't know. It just, like I said, I think we have to look at this whole labor thing in the entire across the country. Everybody's looking at it from every angle possible. And to attract employees that want to work in the public sector, you have to have a very certain mindset. You have to be a certain personality. You have to be very forward-facing. And that's not something that kids might know how to do or want to learn how to do, right, unless kind of pushed into a situation where, well, okay, you're reading to these little kids after school for a day, and then maybe tomorrow you're helping them with math. Now, those are just kind of my thoughts, but thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. Weffel.
So I'm going to try and summarize all my thoughts, because I had lots of them while you're going through. But I love the idea of the job fair at the holidays. I think that's a great one. I have a 16-year-old who works, and I will tell you what has brought her to the table and kept her there. Flexible schedules, flexible schedules, flexible schedules. Mm-hmm. And so I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I think this age group especially, it's important. The other thing is a sense of belonging. Where she works, she has been given that. And things like huddles at the beginning of shifts, mm-hmm, I think that that plays into kids' excitement, belonging, part of a team. We do huddles on healthcare, actually, at the beginning of shifts and on units and hospitals, and it's a way to get good information from shift to shift, mm-hmm, but it's also a way to build morale. So anyway, The other thing is little team awards. So they nominate each other in a shift for, what this, tonight we're going to give everybody an award for best team player or who worked the hardest. I don't know, little things that really have given her a lot of pride. At the end of her shift, she'll come home and say, hey, guess what I got tonight? And even if it's not affiliated with a dollar amount, I think those things do help. Now I'll talk about the things that are dollar amounts. And I think we all need to be prepared to back with dollars. Because if we're talking about what we're going to do here to make it a priority, which we said we would, that's what's next. So I think bonus structures work. And I think they work in different tiers. So retention bonuses from year to year. So if you worked for us last summer and you're willing to come back and you sign that commitment, you get a specific retention bonus. It doesn't have to necessarily be huge, but I think if we show that people year to year get that, and maybe if you sign, 3 years in a row, then that accelerates your bonus at the beginning of the season or the end of the season, however we distribute it. The other is a referral bonus, so the friends and family idea, but attach that with a bonus structure. That's it. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Rousseau?
Well, thank you. And I think this is just a great example how staff takes our goals, which we just finished up, and here you are with a presentation for us. And it's a great one. And one thing I noticed in your demographics was that some of your workers are older than just 15 or whatever. And so if we're really looking to expand our workforce, are we addressing targeting some older workers? I mean, maybe if mom has the kids in the program, she might want to come and serve as a program coordinator. I mean, kids are already there. Or maybe, it's a spouse who just moved to town and, they want to find some summer work. So I was just wondering if you do any or plan to do any targeting for non-traditional age workers.
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes is the answer. And a great example of that is just this past summer at the golf course. We ended up not retaining the majority of the individuals that had worked for us for several years at the golf course. And with our new superintendent in place, we actually targeted retirees. And we got a great group of individuals that came, and they just wanted to sit on a mower, and just kind of do some stuff, and again, those flexible hours too. It wasn't you have to come at 5 o'clock before the golfers get here and you have to be out of here by 1. We kind of made it so it worked with their schedules. So as retirees, they were able to still just enjoy it, and it worked out really well. So yes, we're going to continue to do that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Very quickly, I forgot about the lifeguards especially. How about Dash? Have a little, you have a little private-public partnership with them and Dash, we do lifeguards or something. They've got some of those skills. They're working on them all the time. I'm sure you've probably contacted them.
Yep, yes.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Okay. Well, great ideas all around. I mean, there's just so much that we're looking at. I think I kind of want to echo what Ms. Roussel said. I mean, the fact that this came to us so quickly after we made it a priority it speaks volumes to the attention that you're putting to this, the professionalism within your department. I think the main thing that I would want to highlight, because I think I've heard everything else that I'd want to say here, but the main thing I would like to highlight is just for the public to be able to recognize that you're looking in many directions to try and fix this problem as best we can in our corner of the world here in Dubuque. It's a national problem. It's a national challenge. It's not just within your own industry, but you are looking to the experts within your industry. I mean, you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation about going to the conference to be able to talk to other people who are dealing with this, looking at real data. And I think all of that is very, very important as we look forward and come up with new out-of-the-box ideas, talk about some of the traditional things we need to do, but also just look to the experts to be able to answer this question too. So thank you very much for all your work on it. Thank you for this presentation tonight, and we're looking forward to hearing more, and I'm sure that we're going to be hearing about it at least in February for the budget hearing, so we're looking forward to that too.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dan. Thank you, Marie. Okay, so It is a motion by Resnick, a second by Farber to receive and file. Watch that presentation. So Adrian, call the roll, please.
Farber. Aye. Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
And Mr. Mayor, the city manager has requested that action item number 3, Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement, actually be the next action item. Would that be all right?
Absolutely.
All right. So our next action item is Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file.
Second by Sprank.
Motion by Roussel, second by Sprank. Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. So Director of Finance and Budget Jennifer Larson is transmitting the notification of the City of Dubuque receiving the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievements for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the 34th consecutive year. And I asked you to move it up in the agenda because Jennifer's here tonight, and I'd like her to receive that recognition for getting that award, but not have to stay the rest of the night to have that happen.
Very understandable. Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Well, I mean, "34 consecutive years." I mean, we talk a lot of good things about the finance department, and once again, here we are. So thank you very much for sticking with us for this evening and for all your hard work. Very well deserved. So thank you very much for everything. Any other comments? Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Well, Mr. Mayor, just very quickly, 34 consecutive years, but her job is nothing like it was 34 years ago.
Right.
She's added so many wonderful things and tools for our citizens, and I'm sure everybody recognizes that as well. 34 years, but it's just been an amazing growth of tools for our citizens who we represent, and so I'm sure that the Mayor will express our appreciation to you as he has for our citizens. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, let's get Jennifer on her way, shall we? Motion by Roussel, second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Farber. Aye. Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 3 is update on odor reduction efforts.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
move to receive and file the documents and receive the report.
Second?
Motion by Jones and a second by Resnick. Mike, please.
Thank you. So Water and Resource Recovery Center Manager Willie O'Brien is here to provide an update on the odor reduction that he's looking at doing at the Water and Resource Recovery Center.
Whenever you're ready, Willie. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, Mayor Kavanaugh and City Council members. I'm Willie O'Brien, manager of the city's Water and Resource Recovery Center. I'm here tonight to speak on odor minimization efforts at the center. And I've tried not to get too technical, but in our industry, it can be a challenge for me sometimes. For anyone not familiar with the Water and Resource Recovery Center, it's located at 795 Julian Dubuque Drive and serves the wastewater treatment needs of our community and the surrounding area. In 2013, the city completed the roughly $70 million renovation of the former water pollution control plant. Throughout the planning and design process, the city embraced global trends toward resource recovery, which now allows us to harvest valuable water, biogas, nutrients, and more, which can be used in and around the center. These improvements reduce both energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. As part of the project, the city significantly changed the solids treatment process. Solids that were once burned in a fluidized bed incinerator are now broken down through anaerobic digestion. The digested solids are dewatered and applied to agricultural land as a soil amendment. Digester biogas is scrubbed and compressed, then delivered to a private partner for CO2 removal and pipeline injection. As an expansion of resource recovery, our facility emulated others around the state and nation through the implementation of co-digestion. Co-digestion occurs when wastewater treatment solids and high-strength liquid organic wastes are anaerobically digested together. This process provides a number of financial and environmental benefits, including a revenue stream from tipping fees, production of additional biogas, reduced disposal fees for local industries, and fewer transportation emissions. Since the inception of co-digestion in 2013, the sanitary sewer utility has received over $1.9 million in revenue from the acceptance of high-strength waste. This additional revenue stream has allowed the utility to reduce the impact of rate increases. While co-digestion provides many benefits, anaerobic environments have the potential to convert sulfur compounds found in wastewater into odorous airborne sulfur compounds. Over the past few years, the Water and Resource Recovery Center has received an increasing number of odor complaints. To address the increase in odors emanating from the Water and Resource Recovery Center, the city has taken and continues to take the following actions. One, we're working with consulting engineers to design improved high-strength waste receiving and handling facilities. This project will reduce the production of odorous compounds by isolating the high-strength waste from wastewater treatment solids prior to the digestion process. The project will also allow us to route the high-strength waste to any of our 4 existing digesters, which will result in improved digester performance and process control. 2, we are working with our land application contractor and state regulators to assess the potential impacts of a transition from what we call temperature phase anaerobic digestion, or TPAD, to pure mesophilic digestion. Reduced digestion temperatures can reduce the production of odorous compounds and may result in additional improvements in dewatering efficiency and reduced mineral scale. 3, we have investigated adding iron salts. They're called ferrous chloride or ferric chloride, depending upon the iron chemical species. We've explored adding that to the digestion process. The addition of the iron salts would bind sulfur and reduce the production of odorous sulfides. Unfortunately, the commodity level iron salts, which are a byproduct of steel pickling, they're currently in short supply. The city may be able to access a manufactured iron salt. What we were quoted would have cost probably about $600,000 per year in increased operating costs, and it could be more or less depending upon the dosing required through experience from a pilot project. And actually, I have a slight update to that. I did just last week receive some information from a vendor that the prices have come down, so we may be able to access a chemical that's cheaper. I just have not fully vetted what the quantity for the dose would be and what that would equal per fiscal year. So that is something we continue to look into. Finally, we're working with Blackstone Environmental. They are the city's on-call environmental consultants selected through the city's RFP process, and Strand Associates. They were the designers of the facility upgrade to refine the scope of services for an assessment of odors in and around the facility, which will then be used to prepare a report summarizing the data, concerns, and recommended solutions. The Sanitary Sewer Fund budget doesn't explicitly identify funding in the current fiscal year for odor assessment consulting fees or for the addition of iron salts. As the city works to finalize our fiscal year 22 budget, we're examining the availability of using any unspent operating funds from FY22 that could be allocated toward these odor mitigation efforts. Ongoing odor mitigation efforts will continue to include completing the design for the high-strength waste project this winter. We expect to bid the project late winter or early spring 2023, and construction of the project is expected to begin fall of 23, and the completion will depend on lead time for some of the critical components for that project. We'll continue working with the consultants to further develop our understanding of odor production and odor mitigation options. We will identify opportunities to put odor reduction expenses into the operating budget and capital budget for the next fiscal year. And then we'll continue monitoring, as I mentioned, the availability of iron salts for chemical dosing once they're financially and logistically available. Last, I wanted to mention that the city is working towards finalizing a request for proposal for a sanitary sewer asset master plan, which will examine the condition of current sanitary sewer collection, conveyance, and treatment infrastructure. And information gathered in this effort will be used to inform future improvements to the city's sanitary sewer infrastructure, including the Water and Resource Recovery Center. I'd like to close by saying that I understand that odors have, at times, impacted our residents' ability to enjoy the outdoors, and I believe that current and future efforts at the center, along with community support, will allow us to significantly reduce the odors emanating from the center. That concludes my presentation, and I'll now take any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Will. Questions, discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Farber.
So thank you, Willie, and I greatly appreciate the detail, not only regarding Blackstone and Strand, but also the future RFP, because I think I get as many calls as you do regarding the odor abatement issue. And especially a week or so ago, I think we had a common call from Mr. Clower in particular, and then I was actually in that same neighborhood for another event, and it was just permeating the air and quite noticeable. And then I also get feedback from the sports complex families about that as well. So I applaud these efforts. I look forward to a resolution because, it's quality of life and, again, wellness and being outside to recreate in that area is important. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Resnick.
Thank you very much. I had a citizen say, well, what are they complaining about? They knew there was a sewage treatment plant nearby, but as you mentioned, we changed things. We changed things to anaerobic digestion, which is a sustainable way, like you mentioned, financial and ecological benefits. But again, then I enjoyed your report very much. So there is a change, and my question to you, is that odor that permeates that neighborhood that Ms. Farber was talking about, is that contingent on wind direction? Does the wind direction make a big difference?
So what I've found out is that the meteorological conditions at the time people are experiencing the odor can greatly impact how they're experienced. Particularly if it's foggy or the air is somewhat heavy, it seems that it holds those odorous compounds down more at ground level, so they would be a lot more powerful in those types of conditions. And wind direction, wind speed seems to have a lot to do with it. If we don't have a lot of wind and it's sunny out, those odors seem to go up in the air and dissipate. However, depending upon the conditions, if they're kept low and moved around, people will likely experience them more.
The last 20 or 30 years, the weather reporting has been, much more accurate than it used to be. Is it possible in your in your industry that you could that you could see that, well, here's the forecast, and it's going to be on the edge or it's going to be tough? Now, 24 hours before that, we're going to add these different things, different chemicals, and knowing what the meteorological conditions are going to be, we better treat. Oh, we've got a whole week that we won't need to use those materials. Or do they have to be constantly used all year to be effective?
As far as what I understand about these iron salts, it takes continuous dosing to get a lasting effect. We would likely have to dose the digesters for weeks and then figure out what reductions we can achieve by adding the iron salts. But odor minimization efforts are likely a combination of different things, including adding iron salts. We can also look at adding some additional equipment potentially We have primary clarifiers that are one of the first stages of treatment where solids are allowed to settle out, and there can be some hydrogen sulfide coming off of those clarifiers. Right now, we have a system that essentially pulls a vacuum around the edge of the clarifier and just routes that air up into the air where it can dissipate. We could look at possibly adding some kind of an odor scrubbing system to that part. Also, I recently discovered, after doing some more checking on suspect areas around the plant, that this location, we refer to it as our blended sludge tank. The blended sludge tank receives the sludges that are separated out during wastewater treatment, and it also receives the high-strength waste from some of the industries that we serve. I've noticed some hydrogen sulfide emanating from that tank, so after testing it with what we call a Draeger tube, it's a little hand pump with a tube that can detect the chemical of interest, found that the concentration was fairly high. So there's biological activity occurring in that tank. When those semis come in to dump the waste, 4,000 or 5,000 gallons of waste is displacing air in those tanks. They're vented, so that's going up in the air. So that could be a significant source, and if the wind is blowing in the right direction and you have a cloud of that material going up in the air, people could experience that.
All right, well, thank you. And finally, I watched you on television tonight, and you mentioned something about perhaps cooking it at a lower temperature sometimes. Is that another possibility?
Yes. So, as I mentioned in the presentation, we operate in a mode called temperature-phased anaerobic digestion. So the first stage of digestion is thermophilic, and that operates at 131 degrees Fahrenheit. And then that is followed by mesophilic digestion, which typically operates at about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. That thermophilic stage allows us to break solids down a lot more quickly and a lot more thoroughly. By doing that, we're able to destroy a lot of what we call fecal coliform bacteria, and that allows us to create a class 1 biosolid that has very little, very few land application restrictions. So the state will allow us to put that on gardens, on lawns. You can use it just about anywhere. If we lower the temperature to the mesophilic range, it will likely reduce odors. It could have some other potentially beneficial impacts on dewatering. We use what we call an emulsion polymer to dewater the solids. It's a chemical that helps bind the solids together. So when we run the combined polymer and sludge through a centrifuge, it'll separate the liquids from the solids. Liquids go back into the liquid treatment system, and then the solids we haul off to agricultural land for land application. But if we get down to this mesophilic temperature range, it will likely not destroy as many fecal coliforms. So we can still land apply. There are just more restrictions on where we can do it. There are more setback requirements. You have to be a certain distance away from waterways, away from wells, away from residences. You have to make sure there are no endangered species that could be impacted by it. There are restrictions on if it's public land, people having access to it within a certain number of days. So a lot of these land management practices likely won't have a large impact on the operation or on the land application process, but I'm trying to be as thorough as we can so we can make a decision that doesn't put us in a precarious position.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Sprank.
A lot to digest, literally. So, Willie, do you have any concerns with these iron salts? Like, okay, say we start investing in this, and then in 10 years, it corroded the whole tank. nothing like that. I mean, because I'd hate to be that, yeah, we're fixing one problem, but then we're going to create a problem down the road. So that's just.
There are some concerns. The iron salts can be very corrosive. We have some chemical tanks at the plant that were installed with the project with the intent of using them for bulk polymer. It turned out that the conditions in our digesters did not allow us to use that bulk polymer, so we purchased it in totes, or what are they, IBC, intermediate bulk containers. They're about 300 gallons each. So we're looking at repurposing these bulk polymer tanks for use with ferric chloride. And so we have to change out some of the hardware. They were installed with stainless steel hardware and some of the flanges. It's not compatible with ferric chloride. So I believe we have already ordered titanium fasteners to do that. And there's some other equipment that we would need to complete that chemical setup. Then, as far as like an injection point, we would look for a place in our digester feed piping where we could install I guess we'd call it a saddle tap, so you can inject the iron salt right in the line with the sludge that's getting fed to the digesters. We've talked to other wastewater treatment plants, one up in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, that has done the same thing. They've transitioned from thermophilic, or the T-pad, to mesophilic. And they commented that at their injection point, they had some failure in a pipe. So there's potential we might have to change a short section of pipe. So I don't think that's a huge deal. And then depending upon what we discover in a pilot, it would be possible to feed too much iron, and you could have some impact on your digestion. But I don't think there are major implications of adding the iron salts past the cost of it.
Thank you.
First, I want to say thank you for your service to our community, because your knowledge is such an asset to us, clearly. So thank you. I have had people in Ward 4 reach out to me, of course, during my time in service to them. And so I reached back out with this on the agenda to some of those folks, and actually had a lot of my own questions answered. But one thing I think we need to consider as a community is that mitigating the odor is also associated in a cost of bringing industry to Dubuque. And so it's an investment in our community to purchase iron salts annually. It's an investment for our city to mitigate this odor, because the impact that those jobs have on our community and bring in our families to the city, this goes beyond just what you're speaking of to me. It goes into, this is how we need to take care of our city so that industry is served, so that they want to come to Dubuque because we take care of their high-strength waste for them, and they want to be here because we offer that service. And if we don't do that, then they will choose to go elsewhere. And so this is potentially a high cost to mitigate odor, but we need to invest in it. And so I look forward to how we'll decide that in budget. I think it's important. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Willie. So quick simplification of the conversation we just had. Tell me if I'm wrong about any of this. We know, as you mentioned the last time you were here, we know that there's an issue. We know that the smell exists. We definitely hear and understand the concerns of residents. You're actively looking into it. You have found several options that have potential. And those options, plus there's a bunch of puzzle pieces that go into this. I mean, this is a complicated issue. It's not just one thing. We need to look at all these different pieces at the same time. And the answers are very likely going to take a little bit more time to be able to answer what we really need to do, and very likely going to take some more investment. There's going to be a cost to it. Is that fairly accurate in
Yes.
putting that all together? Okay, all right. So thank you very much. We really appreciate you being here with this update, and absolutely for all your efforts. It's a lot, and we know you're doing quite a bit to try and take care of this, so thank you for actively working on it.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we have a motion. Lost track here, sorry. Motion by Jones, a second by Resnick. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
It passes 7-0. Thanks again, Willie.
Action item number 4 is work session request, Central Avenue Corridor Streetscape Master Plan Draft. Ugh.
Good job, thank you. Yes. That's right.
I motion that we receive and file and set the work session for, I guess, November 21st at 5 PM.
Thank you.
Second.
Got a motion by Sprank, second by Roussel. Working for everyone? Okay. Then we have a motion and a second. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Motion passes 7-0.
And since action item number 5 was pulled from the agenda, we will move on to council member reports.
All right. Reports this evening. Yes, Mr. Resnick.
Mr. Mayor, on Friday, I was one of 20 bicyclists or so on a 22-mile bike ride around Dubuque, and it was all in support of our Complete Streets idea. Part of the group were 2 consultants to help us identify possible improvements. It was a chilly day. We had a group that consisted of private citizens as well as city staff, as well as those consultants, and a lot got done, and they seemed very hopeful. They pointed out some things that could change. It could help us become more bikeable and walkable. So I'm looking forward to the upcoming months to hear what the consultants have to say after they listen to us and our citizens. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Farber.
Thank you. I just want to give a shout out to 2 organizations for which I attended receptions and activities, and one was the Bluff Strokes for the plein air artists. And in attending that reception, it was the largest group I've ever seen at one of those exhibits, and people were very supportive. The artists were there, indicating where they actually did the painting and how long it took them, and all the things that they used, whether it was watercolor or whether it was acrylic or whatever the medium had to be. And I think they basically sold out and raised over 6 figures for that. And then the evening prior to that, I was pleased to attend for Heritage Works, their rebranding and their introduction and expansion to the community as to what they were doing for Heritage Works and for the restoration and preservation and repurposing of our wonderful historic architecture. And that was also extremely well attended, and that was on a Friday night. And on Saturday night at Bluff Strokes, it seemed like the party just continued, and the same group were supportive of both. So I was very appreciative of the creative talents and people's just really support for the arts and as well as for our historic preservation. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Wethel.
On October 11th, I was invited by the property owners and business owners on Central to go down and do a safety and lighting tour. And Mr. Van Milligan, Mr. Chisel, and Chief Jensen were there with us. We walked much of those neighborhoods that do create potentially space where we could improve lighting to improve people's sense of safety. And so the business owners on Central are working really hard as a community to build that space, and I just really appreciate their efforts. It was a very educational night for me, and yeah, we've got a great group of folks down there.
That's great. Mr. Jones.
A friend of mine had his life saved by his colleagues last week, and that's notable. And I'm thankful for that system that allowed that to happen. But I really appreciate you, Captain Tom, for telling your story and for letting people tell your story, because it has life-saving impact on others that are not sure if they should call 911 or not. Being in an ambulance surrounded by paramedics saved my friend's life. And being in a car on the way to the hospital may have taken his life. And that's because smart people made good choices that day. And Tom, I can't thank you enough for telling your story. I can't tell you how grateful I am that you're alive and well and getting better. But what a big deal. Don't be afraid to call. Be afraid not to. Also want to say just quickly and anecdotally, I spent some time with an interesting lady who's on the city council in Gladstone, Missouri, the suburb of Kansas City. And professionally, she runs a recreation department in a neighboring city. And we talked about lifeguards a lot. And she's up to exactly the same things that we're up to, trying to figure out how they're going to do that. And so is the entire world.
All right, thank you. All right, well, last one. I brought a prop. You know how much I love bringing props. So today there was a celebration, a community celebration, and it turned into a full-on dance party. So it was wonderful. I do love getting to spend time with our Marshallese neighbors. You know, we have such a wonderful community within a community here in the city of Dubuque. And I know several of us were there too, but there's going to be a new exhibit at the Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium, and there's a new outrigger canoe that was built by Marshallese folks from the Marshallese community, replica of what could be seen in the islands. Real piece of home for them in their home now. And I think that this is really going to be an amazing exhibit. And now there's video of me dancing with everyone out there somewhere. I think David probably too, Mr. Resnick over here, and maybe several others. So thank you very much for a wonderful time today. Okay, we do have a closed session, so I'll entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
Move that the council go into closed session in accordance with Chapter 21.5 of the Code of Iowa to discuss pending litigation and purchase or sale of real estate.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Jones, second by Resnick. For the record, the attorney the council will be consult with on the issues to be discussed in closed session is City Attorney Karenna Brumwell. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick. Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. We are in closed session.